Hello my dear friends and my dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to top lesson for you. Dear friends, as you know that we are discussing about the structure of a eukaryotic cell, right? So in the previous lecture I have recorded about mitochondria. I hope you guys watched that lecture and I hope you have learned something from that lecture also. Now in this lecture we are going to discuss about the structure and functions of ribosome, right? So let me introduce first. In the lectures regarding the structure of the eukaryotic cell, we have talked about cell membrane, the cytoplasm, the nucleus, the nuclear membrane, the nucleolus, and I have covered DNA also, the structure of DNA and composition of DNA, right? Then we discussed about the cellular organelles. The first organelle that we have discussed is the mitochondria. Now we are recording about the second organelle, the most important one, which is responsible for all the proteins which are synthesized in our body, in our cells, right? So this is called the ribosome. So let's know about ribosome also. Okay, let's start our lecture regarding ribo and some, right? So two words showing that ribosome is a combination of two words. The first one is referred to ribose sugar, right? And the some means body, right? Some means body. So let me tell you guys this one also. Some means body and ribo means the RNA sugars. Simply, in simple words, if we mean of ribose, ribo is referred to ribose sugar, right? And you know that in our RNA, right? In our RNA, we have a sugar, and that sugar is called the ribose sugar, right? So that's why we say that. This RNA is a body. Is a little body, is a very small body which contains this ribose sugar, and it means that this ribose sugar is present in RNA. So it means that the ribosome itself is composed of RNA. Ribosome itself is composed of RNA. Later on we will see the structure of ribosome and its composition, but I'm just introducing this word, right? So this ribo is referred to what I told you, friends, ribose sugar, and you know that ribose sugar is present in RNA, right? So we say that this ribosome is sometimes called as the ribonucleoproteins. What does it mean? It means that ribonucleoproteins, so two words, ribonucleo. So ribonucleo means RNA, right? And proteins. So some proteins are also present there. So just simply, if someone asks what is the composition of RNA, RNA is made up of what? RNA is made up of two important things. First, ribosome is made up of what? So ribosome is made up of two important components. Number one, RNA. Number two, proteins. It's so simple, right? That's why we say that ribosomes are sometimes, or not only sometimes, but ribosomes are also called as ribo and nucleo, and the third word is proteins, right? So ribonucleoprotein particles, right? Ribosomes are also called as the ribonucleoprotein particles. So it's very simple that ribosomes are containing ribonucleic acid, which means RNA, and some proteins. So this ribonucleo is referred to RNA, right? And this protein is referred to, you know that, protein. So that's so simple. That's very simple. It means that ribosome is made up of these two important factors, the RNA and the protein. And which RNA we are talking about? We are talking about rRNA, or we are talking about ribosomal RNA. That RNA which is present in ribosome, we say this is ribosomal RNA. As you know that we have in our cells 3 types of RNAs: the transfer RNA, the messenger RNA, and the ribosomal RNA. That RNA which is present in the ribosome is called ribosomal RNA, and along that RNA there are some proteins also. So that's why ribosomes are also known as ribonucleoprotein particles. That's so simple. And what is the definition of ribosome? Some means bodies. These are small particulars. These are small particular bodies which are responsible for protein synthesis. Right. So let's define it. Small particles responsible for protein synthesis. As in the previous lecture we discussed about mitochondria, that mitochondria is responsible for making energy, for making ATP. So is the case. Ribosome is responsible for making proteins. So this is a little bit about the introduction of ribonucleoproteins, or we say the ribosome. Now let us jump in a little bit into the history of ribosome, that who was the first person who discovered ribosome. So we know that ribosome is present in prokaryotic cell as well as in eukaryotic cell, but now we are talking about the eukaryotic cell, as we humans have eukaryotic cells. So for the first time when it was discovered in plant cell, the persons Robinson and Brown were the first personalities who discovered ribosome in plant cell. So we say in plant cell. And plant cell, who discovered ribosome? Robinson plus Brown. These were the 2 personalities who discovered ribosome in plant cell in 1953. Yes, in 1953. Right. Later on, in 1955, in animal cell it was discovered. In animal cell. Who discovered it? G. Pallid, right? G. Pallid was the personality who discovered the ribosome in 1955, and later on he also got a Nobel Prize for his discovery, and he said that in the cell proteins are synthesized, and these proteins are synthesized by very small particles which are called ribonucleoproteins, which are ribosomes, right? And who was the person who first of all separated ribosome from the cytoplasm? Separated means isolated, right? So the third personality who isolated, right? So I'll write isolation of ribosome for the first time. Isolation means if we have here cytoplasm and here we have ribosome, so who was the first person who separated ribosome from the cytoplasm? So the personality was the claved, right? Who was the person? Claved. He was the personality who isolated ribosome, and we have said that ribosomes are also known as ribonucleoproteins, right? Let's move further forward and say new things about ribosomes. How many ribosomes can be present in a cell? What can be the number of ribosomes, right? So look carefully. As we know that our cell is dependent on enzymes, right? There are more than 3,000 types of enzymes working in a human body, right? So our cells are dependent on enzymes, and enzymes are protein in nature, right? And proteins are synthesized by ribosomes. So ribosomes are working every time to make proteins for our cell. So the demand for protein is much higher in a cell. That's why there are more number of ribosomes in a cell. So we have came to know that there are 10 million ribosomes can be in a cell. So there can be 10 million ribosomes, and these ribosomes may be attached or may be free. We will talk about it later. What is the size of ribosome? What is the size of ribosome? So this is a ribosome. We have much magnified it. It can be only seen with electron microscope. So it's very smaller particle, and the size of it is 150 to 200 angstrom, right? So it is very small particle. Done. Then where is ribosome located? What is the location of ribosome? So we know that if we have here a cell, right, and here we have our mitochondria, then here is the nucleus, and here we have our endoplasmic reticulum, and inside the plant cell we have also plastids, right, and this is our cytoplasm. So some ribosomes are scattered in the cytoplasm, right? So we will write it as some ribosomes are present in cytoplasm, right, and some ribosomes are present inside the mitochondria, as we have discussed about the structure of mitochondria, and we have said that mitochondria contains ribosomes also. So some ribosomes may be present in mitochondria, so let's write it also mitochondria. Some ribosomes are attached to endoplasmic reticulum and nuclear membrane, you know that, and let's write it here. Some are attached to endoplasmic reticulum. Done. And some ribosomes are also present inside the plastids and plant cell. So we also say that they may be present in plastids. So it means that in these three conditions, ribosome is attached, right? Attached. And in case of cytoplasm, ribosome is free. So in a eukaryotic cell, ribosome may be free or it may be attached, right?